Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm very excited for today's episode. We were quickly talking before we recorded that we finally have some actual stuff to talk about. So I've been like a little behind the scenes for our listeners. I messaged Sage yesterday and pretty much said, do you want to do it today instead? Because I'm itching to talk about it. So I've had to wait a whole day. I've been sitting here just ready, waiting to go. And we're finally here. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the most exciting part is realistically moving forward, there's just always going to be something to talk about now. So yeah, very, very keen to get into it.
Even more behind the scenes stuff is we had 2 episodes talking about the weapon locks changes, and because I've been in the middle of a move, I didn't get a chance to edit those, and then all of this stuff started like rapidly coming out, and I was like, well, I guess we just won't have those episodes released because, well, we just have Battlefield 6 and the open beta that we're going to be talking about. So there will be 2 episodes lost to the sands of time, unfortunately. But
only you and I will ever hear those.
Yep. For our ears only.
Yeah.
Fortunately, though, we've got a crap ton of Battlefield 6 news. Sammy, you were in Los Angeles for the reveal, got to play it for a few days, got quite a bit of time in there. We got the multiplayer reveal, we got a lot of footage, we've got a lot of news, and it's quite exciting. So let's jump in. Hey, fancy LA boy, how you doing?
I was waiting for something along the lines of oh my god, I walked straight into it.
Yeah, quite a lot of people were there. I was listening to the Kinda Funny Games cast with Snowbike Mike talking about his experience with the reveal, and it was just quite funny hearing the like more somewhat traditional news of it, behind the scenes that kind of thing, and then talking to you, Sammy, and then watching your vlog. It was just funny to see a little bit of the different perspective of like YouTuber versus someone from the more traditional news side of things. See that detail, but you got to play it. You got a couple days with it. You got to talk to some of the people involved. Got to talk with a bunch of different creators. I got to meet Mike. I was so excited, man. I'm a huge Kinda Funny fan, and Mike is my favorite of the whole show. So I saw him walk past when we were playing, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Snowbike Mike. I knew he was there because a couple of my mates were they're also big fans, and they said that he was going. I hadn't seen it because I was out there and it was chaos, but anyway, I saw him walk past where I was, like where my station was, and I literally bounced out of my chair and was like, Snowbike Mike, and shook his hand, and he's really nice. We had a chat for a good 5 or 10 minutes, and he was, he's, as you know, you'd watch him, he's just an excitable guy. He was so happy. He was partying too. Apparently, he was having quite the time at the after party.
I saw him walking around. He seems a very outgoing person. He was just
very social butterfly.
Yeah, exactly. He was just bouncing from group to group. He was walking around by himself. I saw him with Paris from Kinda Funny as well for a bit, but then he was just by himself, just walking around, just talking to everyone. So that was honestly one of my highlights of the whole thing, was meeting Mike, because I'm a massive fan of him. I listen to those guys literally every day. So seeing him in person, I was like, what the hell? This is crazy.
That's awesome.
So much fun, man.
But yeah, you got to experience what's the vibes. What's kind of the I want to get discussing about the specific event itself, and then get into our thoughts about what we've seen and then what you've played. So, but like general like vibes, how was everyone feeling? How were your initial like reactions to things?
Yeah, so I think everyone came into this event because like we got there about 2 days before the event started, and then the first 2 days of the event weren't to stream, obviously. So we were actually all kind of there for 4 days before this, and all of the creators were in the same hotel. They essentially booked an entire hotel. I don't think there was actual like civilians there. I think it was literally
they got hotel. Like over 100+ people there just from a creator perspective.
Yeah, and like the hotel lobby, for example, like the elevator doors had like Battlefield branding on them and everything. Like it was crazy. Oh, wow. So I think they genuinely may have booked out, if not the whole hotel, like a large chunk of it. And so we were all talking before the event. Not only me and the Aussie guys, like we all sort of came over together, but we were mingling with some of the UK guys and stuff. And I think a lot of people were slightly skeptical. I think we all know how the Battlefield community is. We're a bit untrustworthy or untrusting of Battlefield as we
rightfully
should be.
So.
Because the last few they always turn them around, but at launch they're never what we want them to be. So I think a lot of people were very skeptical and reserved heading into this. The other thing to keep in mind, though, which I am now finally allowed to actually say, and obviously I've told you this, Sage, but the viewers wouldn't know, is that I actually played back in Feb as well, and a lot of people there had been playing way longer than that. I thought that was early for me. These people have been playing for like, some of them close to 2 years. So
yeah, I just saw a tweet weird from a content creator saying they've been involved for 2 years and have been given considerable amount of... Yeah,
I just saw that tweet as well.
Yeah, Nick 930 said he's been secretly testing Battlefield for almost 2 years. So this is really cool that first of all, they said that they were doing this, but none of us like really believed it. Because like we've been talking about, they have burned so many bridges in the lead up to this game. And we all, rightfully so, do not trust them to really deliver on the things that they say because we've heard them before. And even if something looks good, because 2042 looked great before it came out.
Yeah.
And it just didn't end up coming to fruition in reality. So that was one of those things that I think is good to see. And I get the vibe from so many of the developers and people there that everyone, except for like the TikTokers, were so hesitant about this game and its reveal.
And that's sort of the point I'm getting at, is that even myself and a lot of, like, not every single person there, but the majority of the people, the majority of the Battlefield creators who were there, they've all been playing for... Like I said, for me, it was about 5 months. That would be the minimum. Most of them would be 18 months or more. Even with that, we were skeptical because it felt really good back in Feb when I played it. I was very, very pleased, and that's sort of why I've been a lot more optimistic about this, because the bones of it felt good, but there was still a lot of issues. You would have seen with all of the labs leaks that like there was graphical issues, there was like textures weren't finished, stuff like that. And so it's hard to gauge how that actually was. It felt good. It played pretty well in that early test, but I still had skepticism. I think most people did going into this. And what I will say is that after the first day of playing, that was gone. Every single person I talked to, without fail, there wasn't one person who was like, oh, I don't know. Every single person was like, oh my God, like we're back. And even the more critical creators, there were people there. Don't know if you've heard of Big Fry, but I am shocked he even got an invite. He was like borderline blacklisted from when Battlefield 2042 launched because he was rightly so, very critical of the game. The fact they even invited him in general, I saw that and went, okay, this is interesting, because he will on the game if it sucks. But talking to him after, I think it was on the first day, we wrapped up playing, and then they had like a little mixer afterwards where you could just go and have a drink and sort of chat to everyone. And he was like he still had a few reservations. We all still do. It's not perfect, but he was like massively optimistic. And I remember being like, okay, damn, I'm a very excitable person. I love Battlefield. So sometimes I don't trust my own opinion because I can just be like, oh, this is the cool new thing, new shiny toy, so it must be good. But when I hear people who are critical and more on the negative side, speaking pretty much purely like optimistically about it, then I go, okay, I think we are actually back. So the overall vibe from everyone that I spoke to there was like very, very optimistic. We all still have slight concerns, but they're not so much. They're not even concern isn't the right word. It's like there's a little, some of the balancing's a bit off. I remember talking to you on the stream. Some of the UI, like I kept shooting teammates, stuff like that. That's like not a big issue to me. So there's still little flaws with the game. Don't get me wrong, but none of it was like, oh man, this part of it, it's 8 out of 10, but this 20% over here, oh, it looks really bad. Like none of it was like that. It's mostly really positive with the few little tweaks that they need to make, which that's always going to happen in a shooter, even when it launches. If you launch a game 10 out of 10, it's going to have some flaws still. So, yeah, I think the vibe overall was very like crazy optimistic, which just felt weird being at a Battlefield event and everyone was like so excited by it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the shift happening. We had also talked on the stream too that the developers saying we're back is kind of in poor taste because they're the people working on the game that made us not back in the first place. And I think that's quite interesting. But more and more we're seeing creators go through after the time frame and their time playing it and Battlefield Labs and all this stuff that is happening. We're seeing more and more people saying, okay, I think we're getting there. I think unlike previously where we also joked on your stream about this of, wow, there's a scoreboard at launch. And that's like how far away off the mark that they had been with 2042, that one of the things that we're glad is there is a freaking scoreboard.
Yeah. And do you know the crazy part about that I just realized is that how insignificant that thing is that I didn't even it didn't cross my thoughts until you made that joke in the stream, because that's how insignificant a scoreboard is, that it should just be there and no one should ever mention it. But we had to actually ask for one in the previous game. So that really did show me like, oh man, that's how in the mud we were, that like that was an issue. Whereas now I didn't even think about the word scoreboard. I just pressed a button to check my stats and saw them and went back to playing. And it didn't even cross my mind like, oh, we didn't even have that in the last one. So it is kind of crazy to see how far it has come and how in the mud we were in the last game. And yeah, it's crazy that, because I'm not going to lie, going into this, before I had played in Feb, that was to me the turning point where I went, oh, I think they actually might cook here. Prior to that, I'm not going to lie, I just thought it's just going to be the same thing again. It'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be fun. I'll play it a lot, but it's not going to be peak Battlefield. Like I just had almost no proper hype around it. Whereas now, like I'm genuinely in the mindset like we're back. Like Battlefield is going to be. It might not be Battlefield 3 and 4 era like quality. It might not ever get to that again. But I think we're on Battlefield 1 levels here. Personally, I think if it launches stable and everything, I think it could be that level of game where it's maybe not seen as the GOAT, but it's like a loved game that we look back on in 10 years and go, oh man, what a game that was. So it's just crazy that can happen, because I just feel like in the industry lately we've seen we've just seen that doesn't really happen anymore. I think like old games are sick and new games suck. Like that's more often than not the case. And especially you look at like Call of Duty and most of these franchises that like have constant games coming out. It's maybe a bit different when it's like a new franchise, for example, or like GTA where it's once every freaking 15 years, right? That's different. But Call of Duty and FIFA and those games that are constantly coming out, it feels like they just will never get good again, if that makes sense. Whereas it just does feel like that with Battlefield, that we actually might be back to being on the right track, which yeah, I'm still a little bit shocked by it, and I'm still very also trying to be reserved. I'm not like thinking, oh, we're definitely set, because we look at Halo Infinite. I think I mentioned this to you on the stream, that that game also launched perfectly well, and it just died off. So there's still things that can go wrong. I'm not trying to like blindly gas the game up. There's still a lot they've got to do to earn our trust fully. But I think in terms of first impressions, that's really all we can do right now. I think they've done everything they can to sort of earn our trust back on that front anyway.
I think for the most part, this is like you're saying, we're getting a game that has been inspired by the previous Battlefield games instead of one that was looking to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the most important aspect, and the fact that we've got the game directors and producers and people on the game citing Bad Company 2 as one of the big influences on how this plays and some of the things that they're focusing on makes me very excited, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it this week. Really looking forward to that experience and getting my teeth in it. Another thing that we had talked about previously was this events like these are specifically designed to hype. They are designed to promote the best possible aspects of it. And it's not until most people get their hands on it that we're going to get like a good idea of what this game is going to be like, how it plays, some of those types of things. So this is really exciting that they are quite confident that we are going to be getting not one weekend, but 2 weekends of open beta. We're going to get that period. Battlefield Labs will continue as well. And then in October, when is it? Is it 10th? I think. Yeah. October 10th, we're actually getting the game, which is crazy. And I know previously we had talked about that it'd be perfectly fine if they just delayed it, because we've been seeing more and more games that should be delayed not be delayed and release. 2042 was one of those games. But excited. This looks like the most full-feature Battlefield that we've gotten in a while. And this is a return to form. It looks like it is a return to form. I do want to get into more specifics, but I want to get started with something that I've seen a lot. Westy had mentioned this. Jordan in our Discord had mentioned this. And they both, and I've seen a couple other places as well, talking about the size of the maps. And I feel like we are the least qualified people to talk about this because we want the Battlefield games to have tiny maps, because they've been historically getting bigger and bigger without focusing on the gameplay experience. So I want to get your feedback on the sizes of these maps and the types of gameplay that we've seen so far. I think it was 3 or 4 maps that we saw? Maybe 5?
Yeah, I think we played a total of 4, I want to say. And obviously, like, some of them were across different modes, so it's technically a different map, but it's like the same map. It's just the smaller section of the bigger map, I guess. The ones that we played were definitely small for Battlefield. Not for, like, they're not like shockingly small. They're just like, if you look back at the last, since, like, I would say since Battlefield 3, if you look at all of the games since then, they are more Battlefield 3 and 4-esque maps, and they're still even a tiny bit smaller than, like, maybe the average map, which, keep in mind, those games obviously did have smaller maps too. They had some big maps, some small maps. So it's hard to gauge until we play all of them, because maybe they're just showing the smaller ones, or maybe this is just how big these maps are all going to be moving forward. To me, they felt mostly really good. I think they were maybe like 10% too small, if that's the average. Now, if the other 5 maps that we get, I mean, Operation Firestorm, we already know what that plays like, so I'll exclude that. The other 4 maps that we're going to get, because they've said there's 9 at launch, if the other 4 maps are like slightly bigger, then I think we're in a really good spot. If the other 4 maps are around the size of these ones, then I'm not like, it's not an issue for me, because like you said, you and I are both like, I'm a small map guy. I prefer the chaos and the close quarters.
And that's, when we talk about this, we're talking specifically for the broader Battlefield audience, not for us in particular, because we would be more than happy if all of these maps were around the sizes that were shown, because that's the type of Battlefield experience that I know I enjoy, and I know that you enjoy it as well. So when we talk about like whether or not they're too big, we're talking about it from like a historically Battlefield perspective, or more traditional Battlefield enjoyers, because I think it may be a sign of just overcorrection in certain cases of like 2042 had massive maps but without any substance, so they just kind of like went back to the drawing board and let's make a small map and let's make them much more impactful, and maybe that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's definitely how it feels. It feels like they have designed them to be there's like no dead areas on these maps. They're all, other than obviously like the deployment zones and stuff like that, but when you're in the action, for example, even on the bigger map, which is, I forget the actual, I think it was Liberation Peak, but it was called Capstone and they were sort of referring to it as Capstone, so I don't know if the actual name is Capstone or Liberation Peak, I'm not sure, but in the first playtest I had, it was called Capstone. It's that like open sort of hillside map that's like the grey, it's like rocky terrain. That map, like as soon as you get out of the deployment zones, you're pretty much at each of the first flags, or the A and the, I want to say there was 5, so the E flag. It didn't feel, it felt big, but like you said, impactful. You're just always in the action. There's never really like dead areas. There's never, oh man, I got to run all that way over there. And so that map for me, that was like almost the perfect size, where it's like, it's big, but it's not like, it's not frustratingly big. It's just like Battlefield typical map size. I think with Siege of Cairo, that one is definitely on the smaller side. But to me, that's also probably the best map in the game. It's just chaos. Mm-hmm. It's just literally, you're in a city and you can blow pretty much all the buildings up.
An actual city.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just like Kaleidoscope from 2042, where technically you're in a city, but it's not. It's just not a city at all, because you're in essentially their equivalent of like Central Park, and so technically that's in a city, but it's really, Central Park isn't a city. It's a park. So it feels good you're actually in buildings, and like the majority, not all of them, but the majority of them you can go into. There's second levels with windows. You can blow the buildings up, so you can, if people are like camping in there, just shoot an RPG and blow it up, and then they can't really hide anymore. There's rubble all over the streets. Like that is like, I think Siege of Cairo, once you play that, which I'm pretty sure that will be in the beta this weekend, that will be the map that you and I have both been saying, like, this is what we wanted for 2042. It is essentially my dream map. It just felt so good to be back on that sort of map. And in terms of the size, I think it's maybe, like I said, it could be 10% bigger, and I don't think it would be a bad thing. But I'm not going to complain that it's small either, because that's how I prefer it. Whether everyone else does, I'm not sure. But I also think a lot of people, we all love the big scale of Battlefield, but I think we are a bit fatigued by the scale of the maps recently, because even when you look at Battlefield 1, which you and I both love, the maps in that game are also very big and open. Some of them, even the ones I love, take like St. Quentin's Scar, for example. I love that map, but it's pretty damn big. And right now, if I went to play on it, I don't know if I'd enjoy that as much as I did back then. I think I've got like big map fatigue, and I just want some chaos now. So from the ones that we played, they all felt good. I didn't have any... I will say I didn't love the Empire State map. That's one thing, at least on Conquest. I didn't mind it on the smaller modes, but that was one map that maybe felt too chaotic. Maybe not the right word. Too condensed. You can't really like... it doesn't feel like you can flank on it and stuff like that. That's really my only concern with that map.
Well, in your stream, you also were talking about how it is the most Call of Duty-esque experience in terms of like time to kill, time to action, where things are. It feels very much like there's everyone everywhere, and it's more of a, can you barely get enough of one location captured to win, rather than kind of like these big sweeping victories that we've seen before.
Yeah, that is actually a great way to explain Empire State, is that it almost feels, and this might turn a lot of people off that map, it's not as bad as I'm probably going to make it sound, but it feels like a really big Call of Duty map, and it feels like you're playing big Call of Duty in that map. That's the only real complaint I had about any of these maps, is just Empire State did feel I don't know what it was. And also maybe I just had some bad games. Maybe if I actually, you know what it's like when you just have one game where you just cook and you're like, okay, now I love that map because I had a lot of fun on it. Maybe I just had bad games. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just felt maybe a little bit unstructured compared to a lot of the other maps where you know exactly where the flags are on the other maps and stuff. I found myself still not fully knowing where I needed to be, but maybe because we had played the smaller modes the day before, and then that was actually on the stream. That was actually the first time we had played the Conquest version of that map. So yeah, I'm not sure, but that's even then. I would say that was my least favorite map, and I still would say I probably put it on par with the better 2042 maps. So it's still not bad. It's just like the other ones were so good that noticeably I didn't enjoy as much as the others. But I think the map design so far is really, really good. It feels like they have really. They even said this too, that they've built, for example, the smaller modes. They kind of built those maps and then expanded it into Conquest as well, for example. So, and that's what you and I have been saying for ages. Like, they need to do that again because they used to do that. Whereas in 2042, it was just like, okay, here's the big open map that doesn't even play well on Conquest. Now let's just put Rush in the middle of it. Didn't make any sense. Repeat. Yeah, so it feels like they've gone back to that sort of building the smaller modes first and then still having in mind the bigger modes, and then you can... I don't know, it just all plays better. There was no small maps where I was like, this clearly is just like a chunk of the map. It felt like they had designed them both in tandem, which I think is really good too. So, yeah, I think the map design felt really good, which to me is the most important part. This game, exactly how it is, the gunplay felt good and everything. It looks great. Destruction's great. If the map sucked, I would say this wholeheartedly, the game will suck. I say that with chest. If the maps suck, the game sucks for me with shooters. And I don't think that's the issue here. I think, that's probably one of the strongest points, that, and even the destruction in tandem with it, that it's like so well laid out that even when everything's blown up, they've kept enough of the buildings like stable that it still feels like you're not just playing on like a flat sort of field. They've still kept enough structure there. So I think, that's probably one of my most pleased aspects of this is the map design. Really, it just felt like we're finally back to. It felt like really just Battlefield 3. Even a bit of Bad Company 2 in there as well. It felt like that era of Battlefield.
It very much looks like it too. Another thing that I do want to add is like I think the failing of Battlefield 2042, and I'm going to throw Battlefield 5 in there too, even though it's not quite as egregious as Battlefield 2042 is a lot of games have a variety of gameplay styles through their maps. And the problem is we got so few maps in Battlefield 2042. And so many of those maps played very similarly, which was you have long distances in between points and nothing exciting happening between those points. And that was just all of them. Now, the later additional maps that they made were better, but they still didn't quite have the diversity of experiences that a lot of other Battlefield games and other shooters have. So I think, hopefully, seeing what we've seen so far, seeing what you've played, it seems like we're getting more diversity in those experiences. Obviously, there's a through line of them being a little bit smaller in scale that we've seen so far. But looking at the Empire State map, like it describes itself as an infantry-only map featuring explosive engagement spanning alleys, rooftops, and the iconic streets of Brooklyn. And I think that is cool because it has that like height. It has that verticality that we didn't see in 2042 really. And then we only saw on 100%. Certain maps in Battlefield 5. So hopefully we get like, okay, we've got a through line of experiences that feel Battlefield, but we also have like, if you want the vehicle focus map, we have that. If you want the infantry only mode and like they're super crazy and all these things are happening, like it seems like finally we may be getting this experience again of like, okay, look, if I like these kinds of games, I'm going to prefer these maps, but having enough consistency and quality in the other maps that you don't feel like you're stuck on a single map that you hate or multiples of maps that you hate.
Yeah, I think the key thing that I noticed, which you sort of just touched on with 2042, was they all played pretty much the same, and it resulted in everyone just running assault rifles because that is the meta, because it's a long, all of the maps were pretty much long range maps. So obviously when it comes to automatic weapons, other than maybe an LMG, you probably want to run an assault rifle. And snipers did very well too, but obviously snipers always kind of do well depending on the player. But in 2042, it was just like, just run an assault rifle, and realistically you're going to do pretty decent. And I think that made the gameplay feel a little bit stale, because you just ran, for me personally, I just ran like the AK-24 or the M5 pretty much the whole time that I played that game. There'd be new weapons each season, I'd try them out for a bit, and then I'd just go back to the old ones. It feels like it's going to be so different in this, where Empire State, for example, I'm going to run SMGs on that map because it's so close quarters, and it changes up your playstyle. It means if you're more of a long-range player, you might struggle a little bit more, but it's also going to get you out of your comfort zone and like change the way that you play, which I personally think is a good thing. Even with having like one more open map in the game, sometimes I like that, where it might be my least favorite map, but it may force me to use like a semi-automatic, like a DMR, and maybe that's not my favorite playstyle, but that's just one map out of say 10, and then you just kind of deal with it, and it sort of forces you to evolve a bit as a player, because you're not just using the same weapon over and over. And it also just changes up, like, yeah, it's just like not stale anymore because you're constantly changing weapons. Whereas on, say, the Capstone map, that seems like an assault rifle map. So that's going to be one where you want to choose an assault rifle or a sniper. Siege of Cairo felt like a good mix of all of them. So you can use an assault rifle, you can use an SMG, LMG, you can snipe on that map. It just felt like there's a lot of different room for like different play styles now, which that's like one of my biggest complaints of 2042 is that game is just like assault rifle simulator pretty much, because there was no reason to use anything else. SMGs were really good up close, but when the hell were you up close in that game? Like that just didn't happen. Shotguns, I don't think I ever used a shotgun in 2042, not gonna lie. Like it's just not viable. Whereas in this, it feels like, oh man, shotguns are actually going to be a lot of fun to run around with. So that's the thing that I'm the most pleased with the map so far. And again, we haven't played all of them, but it just felt like there's proper variety there. There are some real, genuine close quarters maps. There are some maps like Capstone that to me is a bit more of an open map, but it's not like stupidly big or anything. Siege of Cairo felt a good mix. We know Operation Firestorm's coming, and that map is goated, so that's not a concern. I just think if they can nail those other maps, like, yeah, we're set for a very good lineup at launch, because the ones that I have played, they all, like I said, even Empire State, which is my least favorite, I still enjoy it. It's still fine. So if that's as bad as it gets, like, I think we're chilling.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because like even I hopped on a couple other streams. I was seeing like your stream and different perspectives, and everyone was debating on what kind of weapon to choose. Obviously, you guys found some good beaming ones, but like you're still like, man, I should probably try the sniper and see how that works. And then it was like pretty effective. And then the shotgun was also very effective. And then like the assault, like obviously they're gonna have to do a crap ton of balancing, because there were quite a bit of people using a particular gun or two, and I think the beta is going to give them some great feedback on which ones they need to adjust. But also, like, there's going to be more weapons, and there's going to be more gadgets, and there's going to be the different maps and experiences. So I think there is going to be some stuff like that that's going to be very fascinating to see what they end up doing. And it feels good to finally see, hopefully, a Battlefield that will let you play various experiences rather than you kind of have to just be the assault or a sniper as well, which, I mean, I love a good snipe, but if that's the only weapon that you can really feel viable, that is kind of a shame.
Yeah, 100%. And I think your point about the balancing, I said this to a few people while I was there, like, there's always going to be balancing issues. And if that's the biggest concern, which for me it probably was, that was probably the number one thing where I was like, oh, they definitely need to like nerf a couple of weapons. But if that's our biggest concern, I'm very happy with that because the best shooter of all time had balancing issues. That's just, they all go like that. There's always going to be a meta weapon. There's always going to be a handful of guns that are just better than the rest. That is always going to be the case. And so to me, the fact that finally we're talking about weapon balancing, not like broken mechanics or the maps are terrible or the specialists or whatever. The fact we're just saying, man, they need to nerf this gun, that is absolutely unreal to me. I'm so happy about that because it's been so long and like since we can really complain about that. Because in 2042, yes, of course we complained about balancing, but like that was like 10 things down the list on the priority. Like we were all complaining about so many other things that we never really had a chance to just only complain about the balancing. And so that's the thing. It sounds weird, but that's like the fact we get to complain about balancing is like really exciting to me because that means we're in a pretty good state. If that's the worst of our worries, I think we're looking good. And now to me, it's just about launching it well, because this is still the beta build. We need to keep that in mind. This build plays very good. I didn't see a single issue. I don't know if you were on the stream when I saw it, but there was one sort of graphical bug where the screen just like played up a little bit. That was it in the whole 4 hours plus, and we played 5 hours the day before, didn't see anything. So this build is very good, but is this the actual, is this how it's going to launch? Different question. So there's still questions there for sure, but I think if they can just get that launch right and then the live service, I think it's looking really, really good. It's just still a little bit of PTSD there for me where it's like, okay, this plays really well, but is this just a vertical slice of the game that is actually phenomenal, whereas maybe the actual build is like clapped? Like, we don't know. So still some slight reservations on that front, but yeah, if it launches in this state, I think we're chill. This might be already the beta build anyway, the best Battlefield launch. If it launched like that, I would confidently say I think that's the best launch of a Battlefield game, probably around on par with Battlefield 1. We just have to hope it actually is in that state, and this isn't like they've done a little cheeky, it's like a really good build and the actual game sucks. We'll have to wait and see, but if it launches like this, I'm very confident about it.
Yeah, and I think what you bring up is a great point, because it's one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about is like 2042 had a very impactful launch. I won't say it's a great launch, but it was impactful. And they really failed on the continued support, reaction times, and the map release schedule. That was kind of what killed them the most in terms of that momentum. And in previous examples, DICE has just really failed to launch a game, but they've also failed a couple times to support a game. Now, they make up on the long scale side of things. Like 2042 is a much better game now than it was when it launched. Battlefront 2 is an entirely different game now than when it launched. And consistently we see this kind of like process of like, and they say it in the investors meetings, and they do all these things of like, we can do it, we can fix it, like we can put out a subpar product and then make it better. It's like, yes, but what if you could put out a good product and then make that even better? And it hopefully is going to be Battlefield 6. We won't know until we have it launched. We get to play it and we see what their release schedule is. But everything that we've seen so far is better than what we've seen in the same time period of 2042. So hopefully the changes that they've made internally and how they make the game and moving away or moving past the struggles from a development perspective that 2042 had, where 16 to 18 months of that development cycle were taken up by trying to fix the engine. It seems like they have a better grasp on that now. They're speaking how they couldn't make this game if it was on a generic engine. And hopefully we get them to have a great launch, because they haven't had a great launch in a decade. It's been 10 years since they've had a good launch of a game. And hopefully we get a great launch, and then we also get great support. That's my hope for it.
Yeah, that is for me my only proper like reservation, because even what I just said about the, is the beta build just really good and the proper build isn't. I don't think that's the case. I think generally speaking with any game, what you get in the beta is generally what you get at launch. Other than it's obviously slight, it might be like 5 to 10% better. So I'm not actually concerned about the launch of the game now that we've played it. But the only genuine reservation I do have is the live service, because that is an area where it doesn't matter how good you launch a game, if you don't support it properly afterwards, in 6 months we might still be going, oh man, they fumbled Battlefield 6. Can't believe they let that game die. That is still possible. And as positive as I've been about this, and as generally positive of a person I am, I'm not going to sit here and just like, me, I'm not a shill. I'm not going to just praise EA and be like, oh, Battlefield's back where everything's going to be great. Like, that is still a concern for me. We haven't really seen them do a good live service ever, in my opinion, because Battlefield 1 launched really good. The live service wasn't great. It wasn't really a live service back then. It was still premium, but like, it was very slow. What we got, the DLC was all good, but it was very slow. I think there was times where it was like borderline 6 months without really any content. And to me, that will kill this game. If they do that again, like they did with 2042, I don't care if this game launches a genuine 10 out of 10 and is the best shooter that has ever been made. If you make me wait 6 months for the next map, I'm going to be so annoyed. I'm going to be so frustrated. So much of the community will move on and play other games.
Look at Halo Infinite. It launched incredibly well, but had zero content for an entire year, it felt like. And like they had Battle Pass and they had like the competitive thing, but you need real content in this modern day and age with first-person shooters. You need to keep up and make people want to play you from a gameplay perspective, but also want to keep coming back to experience new things versus just going back for the new season of Fortnite that is going to bring incredible new experiences, whether that be game modes, skins, or map changes. Like, that's what your competition is now. And we've seen games like Battlefield 2042 launched and it wasn't that great, and then also didn't have great support, and eventually got better. Halo Infinite was a great, solid experience. Like, it was one of the least buggy launches of a AAA FPS game that I've seen in a while. Yeah. And then just didn't support it.
Yeah. That to me, I said that a lot of times on the stream. That is the comparison to me that gives me like trauma of like Halo Infinite. I remember talking to you, and we were both like, oh, Halo's back. We're back, baby.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, because they just didn't support it. And that game should now be like peak FPS right now. If they had supported that properly, it would be doing crazy numbers still. Everyone would be loving it. It'd be bringing in people from, people who haven't played Halo, but they see this game that's just popping off. Everyone knows the name Halo, even if you haven't played it. That game should be killing it, and it's not. And so that is still a concern with Battlefield 6, that I hope they haven't put all of their effort into the launch, which could mean it will launch in a fantastic state, but then they launch it and they do a big sigh of relief, and then they go, oh, hang on. Now we do have to support this afterwards. And that's the only area that I'm genuinely like very curious to see how they handle that. If they can give us a good live service, I believe we are back. I will say that with chest. If they can give us, like, I don't know how long the seasons will be. If say it's a 2-month season and we get a map every 2 months with a bunch of weapons, battle pass, all that kind of thing, that type of cadence in 2 months, I think we're chilling. If it's 4-month seasons and we still only get one map, then I'm getting concerned, because people will get bored. The core Battlefield fan base probably won't, because I think we just want a good Battlefield game. So I think the core Battlefield community will stick around for sure, for at least for a while. But there's going to be a lot of new players coming in with this one. Even people who've maybe played the older Battlefields, but they haven't played recently. A lot of Call of Duty players and stuff like that. And if they want to retain those people, they have to kill the live service, because it doesn't matter if it launches 10 out of 10. If it launches October 10th and we get our first new map on the 28th of Feb, like people will be moved on. Arc Raiders comes out. Black Ops 7 comes out. There's so many games coming out. GTA's out next year. That will take people's attention for so long. It can still go wrong from here. So that's the only area that I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, they're definitely going to, they're going to fail with the live service. I don't think that they will, but I wouldn't put it past them either. This is still the company that we have been pretty critical of for the last, 10 years now. So just because it's launching well doesn't mean we should blindly, hope that it's going to be the best game ever. I think we still need to keep them accountable. We still need to pester them about, give us more maps, give us more weapons, give us all this stuff. Not in an aggressive way where you're hassling them and being genuinely rude about it, but we still, as a community, we don't need to just let this launch and just say, oh, thanks DICE, you've killed it, thank you for that, and then we just don't talk to them again and we just go and play our game. We need to keep on their case, because if we let them relax from here, then it can still flop, and that's not good for us. That's not good for them either, by the way. They will just lose so much money, and that's the area that I hope they've clearly invested so much money into this. I hope that they understand that they must continue investing. You don't release it. It's not a single player game. You don't release it and just, sweet, it's out. Let people buy it and have fun. You've got to keep people engaged, because yes, they'll make a heap of money on the sales at launch, but if they want that 100 million player count, you got to keep releasing stuff. You got to release that BR and get people excited and keep people engaged in the BR and in the multiplayer, and sell skins to be able to keep paying your developers, because if they do a big bunch of layoffs, well, there's less people to work on the game and it's going to flop. So there's still a lot that can go wrong here. And while I'm very positive as of right now, we'll see. I'm not locked into being positive, if that makes sense. I'm almost looking for things to complain about, because I know that, and I think we all are, because we want this to succeed. So I think when we see stuff that isn't as good as how it looks right now, we need to call that out and we need to keep them accountable. And if we do that, and if they listen, then I think we're fine. But if they think they can just launch it and then just sail off into the sunset, unfortunately that won't end well for anyone, I don't think.
Yeah, they need to have a strong launch. They need to have a strong continued support. Like you're saying, if they just drop a great game and they don't support it, yeah, it's a great game, but that's it. Sorry, in this current day and age, unfortunately, that's the state of things. In the past, you could drop a game and not have to support it as frequently as you do now, just because of the competition, and also the people are getting kind of burnt out. They are choosing only to play specific games and experiences right now. It's very tight on budgets right now. And if you're only going to choose one game, you want to choose a game that will support you continuously. And if it's not giving youth experiences back for your money continuously, then people are going to be less likely to invest in it. So hopefully they get this one right.
Yeah, that's for me the only real checklist thing now is, I think it feels like it'll launch well. It feels like it's the game we want. So that's two big things checked off. It's what we want, and it hopefully at least will be stable at launch. Huge for them. That's a massive win. The final thing to sort of make that the trifecta that I think you need for a successful shooter is you better keep us engaged. Because I know I'll be playing, I love Battlefield. I'll be playing this game for years, even if the content drop is really slow, because I just love Battlefield, and this feels good enough to keep me engaged. But not everyone will be like that. On top of the fact that even if we're sticking around but there's nothing to buy in the store, well, they're not going to make any money, and then they're going to have to lay people off. So yeah, there's still a lot to be done. I hope that they know that. I hope they haven't put all of their eggs in the basket of launch and haven't really thought about post-launch. I hope that they've just got maps cooking in the background already, and yeah, hopefully we're set on that front, because I think really that's the only concern for me, is just the amount of content. I don't need a crazy amount. I don't need like 3 maps a season. That's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. But yeah, if they can just give us a cadence of content that we're all pleased with and that launches well and everything, then I think we're set. But it's one of those things where until they do that, I'm going to be more on the concerned side than the positive side in terms of like the live service, because I think I don't know when they've really done it properly, personally. I think that premium back in the day, they killed that, but that's obviously... I'm fine with premium myself, but the gaming industry has moved past that, so that's no longer like viable. And so really, since it's been this whole live service model, which for them probably started with Battlefront 2, it's just been like pretty much a disaster, really. Battlefront 2, which, you know, turned around and it was a great game by the end, but the live service was not fantastic. Battlefield 5 live service was not fantastic. 2042 didn't really even get one because it was just fixing the game. And again, they did a good job fixing it, but the live service itself wasn't very good. So that's essentially the 3 games they've launched in the last like decade or so, not including Battlefield 1 because that was premium.
Yeah,
they haven't really shown they can do this. So that's my only concern. But they also haven't shown they can launch a game properly, and this one feels like it is. So I'm hoping that this is a proper turnaround and that they've actually learned their lesson. It feels as though they have, but yeah, until... I think this weekend with the beta, that will be a big test, because we were, you know, it was a closed LAN test on very good PCs. Maybe on console, maybe it's not as good. Maybe there's a lot of issues there. Like this weekend will be a big sort of selling point. If this feels good, I think we're fine. But obviously
I can't remember. Is this one only next gen?
Yeah, which is fantastic. Okay. I'm very happy about that, because to me that was probably one of the biggest issues with 2042 was that they just tried doing too much. I think that launched on 6 platforms.
Yeah,
like that's crazy. That is insane. So the fact it is now just PS5, Xbox Series X, and I assume X and S. I haven't actually looked into that, but I assume it's both.
It should be
PC. That's just 3 like I don't really count X and S as different platforms. It's really the same thing. Just one is slightly weaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think hopefully that helps them a lot, and I think the game needs it, because I don't think this would run on a PS4. Man, I think it looks just gorgeous. The destruction, I can't. I think.
Yeah.
The destruction would just blow up your PS4. Honestly. I think you'd get IRL, like real life destruction going on.
Immersive destruction.
Yeah. Which, look, that could be a cool selling point, I guess. This game's so high quality that it will give you IRL destruction. But yeah, I think it's very important that it's just next gen, because I think I'll be honest, I think for the last 2 to 3 years, every game should be doing that. And it feels like we're still hanging on to that previous generation, which I get it. Like, I know not everyone can afford the new consoles and stuff, and I do feel for those who miss out, but it's been 5 years, man. Like, even if you don't have a job and you're a kid, you go to school and you just like get some pocket money, surely in 5 years you can save enough for like a sale on a console. So it's like, yeah, I think we're past previous gen, personally, and I mean it's nearly freaking next gen again. Like it's really only going to be 2 years now.
That hurts. I also feel like this is the weakest console generation in a while.
Yeah,
that's a completely different discussion, but yeah, it's feeling. I feel like we've got a lot of life left in the consoles that we currently have.
That actually reminds me, this is a little inside scoop that I haven't actually told anyone, right?
Oh.
The hotel we stayed at, they apparently had done something similar to this a few weeks ago. That wasn't a Battlefield thing. It was an undisclosed event, right? And one of the like people at the bar was... I wasn't here when this happened, but one of the people at the bar was talking to... As in one of the workers was talking to... I think one of the Aussies, and they said, oh, there was something like this a few weeks ago where there was a big sort of gaming convention, and they asked what for, and they said that they didn't fully know. But then we had seen just the next day that there was leaks of the PlayStation 6 like stuff going on. So we actually think, again, this could just be completely incorrect, but it sort of felt like they had some sort of behind the scenes, maybe a convention more for like developers and stuff to come in and see all the new tech that they're going to be having in the PS6 and stuff like that, because the timing of it was crazy. That this guy was like, oh, there was a big gaming convention, but it wasn't, he didn't mention a specific game, because you'd think if it was like GTA or something, that would have been known, unless it was like a niche game. But again, I don't think a niche title would be doing an event like that. So yeah, I feel like the PS6 might be closer than we probably expected, which is crazy because, like you said, I feel like I've played 2 PS5 games in terms of games that I actually consider proper next gen.
Yeah,
which is probably God of War Ragnarok, and that might be it. Spider-Man 2 was really good, but I don't know if that felt proper next gen. And so I don't. Oh, and probably Death Stranding is probably also up
Death
there,
Stranding. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of clips from that recently, and that feels very next gen in ways that like you would consider next gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weak, man. Like, I feel typically when we get to like this point of a generation, there's been like a bunch of like key games that feel very next gen, and I saw people talking about like one of the things in a like YouTube video or something I was watching. They're talking about like Elden Ring feels like that once in a generation kind of thing, but like you can play Elden Ring on a lot of things now.
Elden Ring is the type of game that feels generational in itself, but it doesn't. I feel like I could play it. Well, I mean, I did play that on Xbox One the first time.
Yeah.
I actually didn't play that on next gen. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, even
I don't agree
like
with
the
that
thing that people
gen.
attribute to this generation, like you can still like, I play it on the freaking Steam Deck, like a PC handheld.
Yeah.
And it's just quite interesting that they're already talking about this like next generation, when I feel like I know people that are still playing the PS4 and the original Xbox One, like
I've got a few mates
VCR one.
Yeah, I got a few mates that I play Warzone with every week, and they only just pretty recently got a PS5, and it was because we were like sort of hassling them to do it, because it was just I think the lobbies are slightly affected or something. There's a reason that it was like annoying for us, so we were kind of like, oh, hurry up and get a PS5. But they were playing PS4 still in like 2025. So it does just feel like, it's just it's weird at the start of this generation. I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, these consoles are twice as strong as the previous ones, which they are. They're really good consoles, but they haven't like made the most of them. It just feels like there's no real next gen games out there. So yeah, it's a weird time for the industry. I hope that like the next gen will maybe make up for that, where maybe next generation will be crazy, because a lot of these games are like maybe building towards that. I don't know, but yeah, it does feel like a strange generation for sure.
Yeah, it's quite the time in the game space. Like if a new one comes out, like I'll probably buy it, but it's not because I feel like I'm limited by my current console. It's because I like to have the new console, and that's literally it.
Yeah, I'll just buy it because I'm like, ooh, new shiny toy. That's it.
Exactly.
I won't be like, oh, I have to get this because it does this stuff that my
there's
PS5
this game that I
do.
feel like I need to get more frame. Like, no, like, pretty much every game that's come out, it's like, okay, that just looks like a little bit nicer than my PS4 version of whatever type of game that is. Yeah,
it does feel like we've maybe peaked a bit, and it will take maybe 5 to 10 years to like push that forward again. It feels like we're just at like, we're kind of at the level we can get to as humans. Like we can't improve it that much more until there'll be, in 10 years there'll be crazy tech that will just change the game again. But looking back at like Battlefield, I saw some Battlefield 4 gameplay on Twitter the other day, and I'm like, man, that still looks good.
Yep.
Game came out in 2013. Still looks so good. So yeah.
It's crazy.
I think that's part of it, is that it's just gaming fidelity has peaked probably in 2020-ish, maybe just before, I think, and we really it's not even really anyone's fault. We just can't make it better without the performance starting to drop off, I guess.
Yeah. Yep, it's quite the interesting time for video games right now. I am very glad, like, bringing it back to Battlefield, I'm very glad that destruction is a thing. Like, I think it's crazy that we've gotten to this point of the podcast and are just now talking about destruction. Because that's a core part of Battlefield, in my experience, is that destruction aspect. And it seems like we're finally getting stuff that feels like the original, like Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, like those were kind of, like, even Battlefield 5 had crazy destruction. And Battlefield 5 came out, 2017, 2018?
2018,
so like
yeah.
7 years ago, that game came out. We're just now getting destruction that feels similar to that. So it feels so good to have destruction again. And it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it felt to me like it will probably be the best it has been. It felt like Bad Company 2 level, but like next generation feeling, where it's like, those older games, the destruction was very good, but it maybe looks, or I wouldn't even say maybe, it looks a hell of a lot better in this, where it's like, say in Battlefield 4, you could blow out those bottom walls of like a regular building and then it would like crumble, but it was very on rails, which at the time I didn't think mattered. It was still sick, but this just feels like you just shoot an RPG at a building and it just crumbles, and it looks real, and it really does impact the gameplay as well. So I think if it launches in this state, I think we're in a position where this might be the best we've really ever had it, personally.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get back into a modern shooter with destruction, because it's just been so long since we've seen that. I mean, we had Finals, which was great. It felt very dicey. But nothing beats the large-scale conflicts where you could be hiding in a building and then all of a sudden a grenade comes through and it completely changes your strategy in that game. And that's what I feel like we've been missing from Battlefield. Yeah,
I think I mentioned this in my first impressions that I did when I was in LA, that the destruction in this feels as good as the Finals, if not potentially better, which I think is pretty damn good, because the destruction in that game is like pretty phenomenal, I think.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very keen to do our next pod, because obviously we're recording this before the beta. It is essentially in like 12 hours from now that it goes live, and I'm so keen for you to get hands on with it as well.
Oh, dude, I'm so hyped.
So that we can actually, because even this episode, even though I've played it, it's still a bit like almost speculation, because it was an event. It's a bit different than an actual beta where I'm on my own setup and stuff, and the fact that we'll both be able to actually give thoughts on it properly next time, I'm definitely excited for that, just because we can really dive into the nitty gritty, I think, once we've both played it.
I'm so hyped, man. But with that, we will be talking about our experiences after we get some gameplay. This is kind of like our first impressions on the reveal, what we've seen so far, and that perspective. Really looking forward to the next episode, where we get into kind of the juicy details, more specific, some of the things that we like, what we don't like, things that we'd like to see changed or improved, all that fun stuff. So stay tuned for that for sure. As always, check out Sammy Boy's YouTube channel. He's got some great content for Battlefield, of course, some Star Wars stuff, some general game videos as well. Check out those on YouTube. If you're into Star Wars, check out Star Wars Uplink. And as always, we'll see you later, video gamers.